Hi, we're at Nursery World 2022 and I'm here with Tim Lings, who is the Director of Digital Learning at Heronsgate Primary and is also an Apple Distinguished Educator. I'm sitting down with him today because I want to talk about IT and digital learning in the early years, which is what Tim's been talking about here at Nursery World. So firstly, I wanted to ask you a little bit about what's digital learning and what does that mean for the early years?
So I suppose digital learning is using technology to do the learning. So at my school, we often talk about the difference between learning ICT and ICT for learning. So the point of ICT for learning is that you're using it as a tool in whatever you're learning. So whether you're learning maths, English, geography, science, whatever, that you're using digital tools to help you learn that subject. So I suppose in the early years, it's using the technology as a way to engage in the learning environment, engage in the learning that's going on.
I think that's a really useful definition. I remember being in settings and we had the computer corner, and that was almost the closed off area for where IT happens. Can you give some examples of where you might find a more integrated approach to technology and how you can have that as something that's part of all types of learning?
So for us, we have in our reception and nursery classrooms, we just have a small set of iPads that are available as part of the free flow. So often might just have a table for themselves, 4 or 5 iPads out with a range of digital apps on there that they can use. Some of them, we use a lot of stuff from Tokaboka. They're really good fun. They're basically like digital toys. There's one of them where you can go to a hairdressing salon and do all kinds of crazy stuff with the hairstyles. Or there was one that you can drive a train, completely with like pulling the choo-choo to make it, and so you can drive this train around. So they're kind of very open-ended, a bit like you might have your Brio out and you can play trains. You can do a digital version. So we kind of have a space where they can explore those tools. Perhaps they'll have a little sign-up sheet so they can take turns. But it's very much like in the same way you'd have a water tray, sand tray. You've still got, in a sense, an area, but what you can do there is very varied.
So in terms of having that technology in the classroom, what is it that provides the kind of extra value in digital learning? So for example, with the train driving one, what makes that so valuable to have it as a digital format as opposed to driving a toy train, for example?
I think it's just an acknowledgement that this is the world we live in. So children are using technology at home. Children will be using technology the whole of their lives. Adults use technology all the time. And if that's what children are interested in, if we say, well, you're interested in trains, that's great. You're interested in playing in the sand, that's great. But if you like technology, well, you can't do that. So it's following what children are interested in, and you've got to kind of have an appropriate amount in an earlier setting. But I think there's that element. And I think also the digital can offer kind of a different kind of experience. So like we've got a couple of AR apps where you can have the very hungry caterpillar appearing all over the floor, and it's not really there. You're just seeing it through the camera on the floor, but it's just that interesting. It's stimulating. It's engaging. It opens you up into the world, not just kind of locking you into just using the iPad. So I think it adds something more to that learning experience.
You mentioned there that children and adults now, that technology is so much a part of our lives. Is there an aspect of obviously acknowledging that we spend a lot of our lives online, but also getting children ready for that digital life that they'll lead in terms of being safe online? Is there kind of an element of that in early education as well?
That's a good question. I think with early years in terms of like online safety, you're going to provide them with a technology experience which has kind of got all the edges protected, so they're not going to accidentally bump up against something online they're not meant to. So I think at that age, it's about making sure it's just a really kind of all good experience for them. But I think it's about just getting them familiar with how these things work, and you can start to have conversations. Like there's DigiDuck Tales, where there's these digital stories that you can look at which explain all about, perhaps you might meet someone online, or how to be kind online, or how you might represent yourself online, all these things. So I think you can start at that age, but I think they're still just exploring the world. And I think you've got to remember that for children born now, technology isn't this wonderful new thing that's been invented. Technology is just part of the world they were born into. It's kind of, that's where they're going in ground level, whereas for us it's like, oh, we're on this amazing 10th floor with technology, whereas for them this is just normal.
Something else you touched on there, I thought was really interesting, that when we follow the interests of the child, that's fine as long as it's not anything to do with technology. And I wonder if that's because there is this sort of perception that there is an association with using an iPad or having screen time with sedentary behaviour and not being an active learner. So if settings want to start introducing more of these more of this digital learning, how can they ensure that they're doing it the right way and that it's promoting active use of technology rather than just passive watching a screen?
Well, I guess part of the problem with screen time is that if a child's just sitting there watching YouTube for hours, they might be learning a lot through that, but at the same time they are just sitting watching TV basically. And in the same way you wouldn't in an early years setting just put the TV on in the corner and kids would just watch TV. Well, I don't know, maybe some people do, but like that's not necessarily great. You might still use video as part of a learning experience, but as a kind of just general entertainment, that's not what an early years setting is for. So I guess the way you use technology is very different. So if there's a drawing app and there's an adult doing an adult-led activity, teaching them how to do drawing on this drawing app, they're still developing that fine motor skills, they're still learning how to observe, how to represent what they're seeing, giving meaning to marks. All these things are happening, but it's just using a digital form. So I really think that computers are a tool, and you can use tools well or you can use tools badly, but they are still just tools.
That's a really interesting point. If settings want to look towards more incorporating digital learning, where might be a good starting point? So they have no technology in their setting at all, especially for the children to use. What might be a really good place to kind of get their feet wet?
That's a good question. I think it kind of depends whether the people in the setting have no real interest in technology but they think they should, or whether they're actually some really motivated people, because I think it's got to take someone who's motivated to want to see that change. But I think go and have a look, go and see places that are using technology, do some research online, get some technology yourself, grab an iPad and download some apps, find something you like, and then think, well, how would I use this in my setting, and how do kids use technology? So kind of, follow your own interests, follow the kids' interests in your setting, and kind of start from there. And then as you come across issues that need addressing, you can tackle it then. But I really think technology is useful in the degree that it helps you do things you couldn't do before. It's not something you should add in. It's something that there's a good reasons to add in.
Okay. Tim, thank you so much for sitting with me and answering those questions. Is there anything finally that you would love to tell me about digital learning? What makes you passionate about it that you'd love to share with people?
That's another great question. I think my passion for digital learning is that we're preparing. What is it? I think my passion for digital learning is that we're meeting children in their world. So technology is completely part of children's lives, and there are so many interesting and exciting things that can happen with technology. And as educators, we need to meet them there, because that's what's going to help engage them in what we're trying to show them. And I think that's where things are going. We've got to kind of keep up, really.
Amazing. Tim, thank you.
No problem.